Now, I want to reiterate something I spoke about at the beginning of the show, which is that I'm going to be speaking about the Nashville shooter more, and I want to keep that at the forefront of your mind, especially as the left is trying to do their best to distance themselves from what just took place and even seemingly try to distract you with what's going on with Donald Trump and Alvin Bragg to once again use Donald Trump as this shiny object to deter away from the actual crap show that is the Joe Biden administration and everything the left has been doing. I think they are largely responsible for creating a class of terrorists in our country. And perhaps, and hopefully not, but perhaps we'll see even more devastating impacts of policies the left is implementing like we did in Nashville. And I want to put that at the forefront of your mind, but I am pushing that to Thursday because today there are some important things to talk about, and perhaps pushing to a later date does keep that kind of story in our consciousness. But the story that I want to talk about today is truly a troubling one. Douglas Mackey was just found guilty and could face a max of 10 years in jail or in prison, forgive me, for posting a meme. And the meme was a text this number to vote for Hillary and stay home and beat the lines. Now, I'll admit that I don't think that this is the wisest of trolls, but let's face it, only less than 5,000 people actually texted this number. And what's also interesting is that there were absolutely no people who testified against Mackey in this trial that said that they didn't vote because of this meme, but it didn't stop the left from absolutely going after Mackey and suggesting that this is yet another fascist attempt from the right to suppress the vote. And of course, we know that's why Hillary lost, not because she's the worst presidential candidate in the history of forever. She's a dumpster fire on top of the seventh level of hell kind of inferno fire that you can expect when you meet Hillary in the afterlife if you go to the same place. I'm only merely suggesting that ultimately the real reason Hillary lost has nothing to do with this guy, and this guy might not actually have suppressed any votes because they didn't actually bring anybody, no witnesses present that testified that their vote was suppressed because of this guy. But of course, more importantly, whether or not there were actually votes suppressed by this troll online, of course we know that this kind of stuff absolutely happens on the left. In fact, you can see it on the screen right now with our dear friend Christina Wong, who posted this eerily similar Twitter post about how you can vote for Donald Trump by just staying at home. So the whole idea here is that the left loves to talk about voter suppression and they love hypocrisy. Because we all know that the voter suppression that was talked about that supposedly took place in Georgia and other red states really amounted to absolutely nothing. And if you'll recall, the identity politics left actually did nothing when they were talking about all of this voter suppression nonsense when they were in control of both the House and the Senate. Now, no laws were passed and nothing actually substantively took place to actually secure voter rights because there is no city or state in America where black people or minorities are actually disenfranchised in terms of their voting or at least unable to vote. The best that the left could come up with in terms of voter suppression during that whole fiasco was that they couldn't get water and they couldn't get food in line. Now, of course, this is only an attempt to try to keep voting purely about voting so that a dude wearing somebody else's t-shirt, vote for whoever, couldn't come up to that person and offer them those things and try to sway their vote or try to talk to them or try to manipulate the voting process. But of course, we know the left loves to do that. No, of course, they would never do that, right? Not those people who want to increase mail-in voting, because mail-in voting surely has no room whatsoever for transgressions and inaccuracies. All this to just simply suggest this, that we don't need you, leftists, to try to help us suppress voting by telling us voter suppression is a problem. What we actually need is we need free speech to regulate itself. That's why it's a constitutionally assured right, because we believe that free speech in and of itself is good and should be allowed. So this meme where this person does this dumb stuff, frankly, the people who are dumb enough to fall for it might deserve the punishment, but as we suggested earlier, nobody really did. We can't prove anywhere that anyone fell for this nonsense or that this person was able to sway any votes in the direction of Trump because of a lack of turnout. Ultimately, this is nothing more than castigating an enemy, because the left loves nothing more than to hate their enemies and to give forgiveness to their friends. But let's be honest, actions like this are actually consistent with a worldview based upon utilitarianism and scientific naturalism and materialism. Of course, the ends justify the means always if you believe that you are virtuous. This goes to the Nashville shooter, by the way. Of course, we can have sympathy for this individual who massacred small children and women and one elderly black man. We can have sympathy for that person because ultimately America is just an unjust place that disenfranchised and disillusioned this person, and it's actually our fault that this person took a gun and shot up all those people. Rather, I suggest to you this, that the real problem is not left and right, but anybody who buys into a philosophy that is godless in nature, because I'm going to tell you something whether you like it or not. Belief follows behavior, and behavior follows belief. Now, you may argue, and I understand this argument, that I don't care what you believe, I care how you behave. The problem with that argument is that your behavior is naturally followed by your belief. What you believe will dictate your behavior. Now, this is an argument that I think is important to note, especially as it pertains to hypocrisy in this instance, because of the whole dichotomy of hate your enemies and forgive your friends. So here's the point. Whenever Christians do that which is evil or bad, it is always in contradiction to their belief system. So a lot of people love to bring up the Crusades. Oh, well, you Christians during the Inquisition and the Crusades, you guys did horrible acts of atrocity. So why should we believe that Christianity is such a morally superior religion that we should all believe in? Why should we believe that nonsense? See what your people did in the past? Well, here's the problem. Whenever you see Christians doing acts of murderous violence, it is always in opposition to the belief system of Christianity. So it's really easy to say that those people weren't actually Christians. And of course, you can call yourself a Christian and not be one at all. So that's pretty obvious. So whenever acts of atrocities and violence and evil took place at the behest or at the hand of Christians, it was done so by people who were actually violating the precepts of Christianity. Now, here's the real problem that we need to consider in the present. Whenever a leftist has a crusade and they do things like what they did with this meme maker and what they're doing with Donald Trump, it is always in logical consistency with their worldview, because they believe that as social elites, they are your moral betters. Then even if they have to play a part in order to create personal gain, it's okay, because ultimately the ends justify the means. This is why what you believe is incredibly important as it pertains to your behavior. And that's why I think it's important that we insist upon accurately understanding the morality of the people who are discussing what's going on in our nation. So you just got done watching a small excerpt of a much larger episode. You can find the link to that full episode down below in the description of this video. So you definitely want to check that out, because if you like that clip, you'll like the much larger episode. And while you're at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and click that little bell to be notified when great new episodes of Indie Thinker come your way. Thanks for watching.